Genius or idiot? About ADHD and intelligence that is 99% innate. When I meet people and talk to them, I have trouble distinguishing what to say or what not to say in that situation. As a result, I often unintentionally hurt of the other person's feeling and have been excluded from gathering without even realizing it. For example, I once went to a singles chat room, got carried away talking about my subordinate as a same university graduate who became a parachute, and ended up offending my unmarried women in their 30s, 40s, and 50s by using the term old maid. Fortunately, the chat room host was able to steer the conversation in the right direction and provide an appropriate explanation, which prevented me from being further criticized. Recently, I read a book by Korean author Gu Hyun called Breaking Up with Familiarity. Breaking Up with Familiarity, which figures a person named Jung Asmi means Mrs. Jung. The book describes her as follows. Sometimes seemed a little mentally lacking about Jung Asmi, and according to her mother, she suffered from a mild mental illness and had been taking strong medication for several years, which always made her feel sick. Based on what she said about herself, she is 43 years old, was physically abused by her first husband, and has given birth a few times. Although her head was completely confused by the shock of failed marriage and the challenges of life, leading her to act immaturely, our conclusion was that she seemed to have been born with a congenital deficiency rather than a postnatal deficiency caused by a mental disorder. Sitting on the main floor, she began to chatter endlessly with no end in sight. Her manner of speaking was no different from that of a normal person, but the difference was that she held nothing back. She just blabbered on about anything that came to mind. Sometimes she seemed like a clueless housewife, while at other times she appeared to be a carefree young woman living in a world that didn't always go her way. For Jung Asmi, who strongly hoped to get married once she regained her health, the obstacle blocking her path was food. Her desires to marry quickly dissipated into thin air because of momentary craving for some rotten grapes, a few unripe persimmons, some not yet grown cucumbers, and a spoonful of her neighbor's salted fish. As people read this, they may see me as somewhat of a deficient person, perhaps even like Jung Asmi. Curious about this, I asked a specialist about it. The specialist mentioned that there are quite a few people who came to the department psychiatry and speak in a way that is somewhat near the boundary of intelligence. I asked, am I someone with borderline intelligence? The specialist responded, no, that's not what I'm trying to say. It's actually much better. However, being diagnosed with ADHD is still in effect. Sometimes, due to skipping a step in thinking, emotions or thoughts in the middle of it may be ignored, but this actually shows up more in people who are intelligent. There is a Mensa member who comes here and is undergoing treatment for ADHD diagnosis. But I think this is a phenomenon that occurs because of their characteristic of having a very fast speed of thought and connections. They don't come out sequentially like others, and there are some jumps. That person is also similar to you in some ways, although the symptoms are not exactly the same. This is a symptom that appears when high intelligence and ADHD tendencies overlap, not due to a lack of intelligence, sociability, or experience. When I asked if this was something innate, the specialist said ADHD and the intelligence are 99% innate. I was frustrated and emotional, saying, "So it cannot be fixed." The specialist said that in my case, they have already sorted out my surroundings, and since the advantages of ADHD are greater, they only treat the emotional aspects caused by ADHD rather than directly treating ADHD. However, the possibility of treating innate ADHD is also high. In my case, since I discovered it too late in my life, it is a priority to take care of my wounds I have already suffered, and since I am now living alone, there is almost no conflict with others caused by ADHD. Due to my brain structure, which is unknown innate ADHD, I have lived while inadvertently and naturally speaking with truth to people who don't want to see it, using a thinking style that skips over the thought process and sees things far or too fundamentally. People get upset because the truth hurts, so I grew up making enemies while receiving my blows for expressing my thoughts. I was a studious student in middle school because my future depended on it. It was obvious to me, but I couldn't understand why other kids didn't seem to care. Whenever I tried to share my thoughts, I was dismissed and belittled. So I stopped talking about it and just focused on my studies. 10 years went by, and I ended up attending a great university. That's when I reconnected with an old middle school friend who said to me, "You know, if you thought studying was so important, you could have at least told your friend about it instead of just studying by yourself." Huh? Why do I have to explain and convince them? It's up to them to decide. Many times, what I said proved to be true after 5 or 10 years. People who disliked me and were fooling around back then still live their lives the same way, but I used to strive for a better life and better version of myself as time passed. Due to a combination of innate intelligence, ADHD, and my peculiar appearance, I suffered from a complex web of pain and confusion. The trauma of my parents' divorce, the abuse from stepmother, and various emotional wounds all added to mix. The specialist told me that no matter how hard I tried, there would be limits to what I could consciously control. I could not escape my innate characteristics. I had to acknowledge and accept them as part of me. Fortunately, I realized that I wasn't stupid, but rather exceptional in many ways, and that my unique appearance, like that of a greyhound, drew attention and envy, but also admiration. My intelligence was another source of pride and helped me to psychologically survive the pain and ostracism caused by innate differences. In addition, I had to endure bullying and exclusion due to my innate traits, as well as envy and jealousy from others, baseless criticism from men, exhausting attention, a weak heart and disposition, treatment from those who felt burial, loneliness, and pain and sorrow. I told the specialist that if I were born in a country other than Korea, I would have suffered this much due to my innate characteristics. The specialists agreed, but ADHD individuals from all over the world are making declarations of survivors stating that they have lived a difficult life. Perhaps it is better than Korea. Korea tends to standardize the entire population from Seoul to Busan in a line.